All right, everybody, welcome to Johnny's Garage. You got myself sitting up here. You got Big Martin, Mr. Death Row sitting on the bottom. And on the
What's
top,
happening, peoples?
and on the top of your screen, we got a man who's got a very interesting back history with both me and the young man on the bottom of the screen. I know his name says Michael on there, but everybody that's in the wrestling business knows him as Mr. Dan Delicious.
There he is. Oh man, it's been a long time.
Long
Oh,
time. 20, I know 22 years.
yeah. Last time I saw you, we were doing a kind of like a legend show for Wayland down in Florida. I'm trying to remember which town we were in. Was it Mossy Head?
Was that the AWF reunion show?
Yeah, the reunion show down there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that was like, I want to say close to Vortex Springs or something like that.
something like that. Yeah, they had
Yeah,
a nice little building down there and a really good audience in that building.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that was also the last time I saw Bob. Was down there in that show, but that was a really good night, little fun night,
Oh, yeah,
little reunion. Yeah,
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
the last time I saw you, I went down with Death Row to a town just across the border in Florida. And that was early 2000s.
that had to be Chipley.
Chipley, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It had to be Chipley.
We were in that school or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, that was AWF in Chipley, Florida.
Yeah, with Dandy Jack and
Yep.
yeah, I can't ever remember his partner's name at that time, the newspaper reporter. But
Yeah, I remember he talking about that. That was believe it or not, that organization was owned by Wahoo McDaniel's wife.
oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
And I think we have a really good story about that.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
I think somebody actually booked me to work Wahoo's son, Junior, in the first Wahoo McDaniel's Memorial show, and it didn't go like he wanted it to. Not the promoter, but Junior.
It did not go like the owner wanted it to. Yeah.
I don't know. She never got mad at me.
Yeah, no, she did not get mad at you. You're absolutely correct. Yes, because I was the booker at that time, and yeah, she you did you're not the one she got mad at. I guarantee you that.
Okay, well, she should have got mad at me because I had a lot of fun that night.
Yeah, we saw Wahoo Jr. probably twice a year in that organization. He didn't care. It wasn't what he wanted to do.
No, he definitely did not want to make a career in wrestling at all.
No.
And I remember that night very well because a lot of people, whenever I start talking about getting into somebody, they think I just beat the hell out of them. And I didn't do that. I did not beat Wahoo McDaniel or Wahoo Jr. up. I didn't kick his ass. I worked his wheels off.
Yeah. You did exactly what I asked you to do that night. And it did exactly what it was supposed to do in my eyes.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was great.
Was Wahoo Jr. a Percy Jr. or did he just not even want to be around the business?
I'd say he's worse. He's worse than he was worse than DJ.
Physically, he's everything that you want.
Yeah.
Looks, he's everything that you want. It's not his forte. You can tell it's I mean, he has fun while he's doing it. It's a passing. I thought it was, my looking at him from my point of view, it was something that he could come in and play around in his mom's little side business or whatever, for a little bit. Then he'd go away to South Florida and do because he was a big surfer. And that's where his passion was. But he was athletic. He was very good looking.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and he had a great look. and he had the Wahoo name. It's just not something he really cared about, you know.
I'm still tickled by it because it's just knowing that the backdrop for that particular show was the Wahoo McDaniel Memorial Show. And then whenever Dan come to me and told me what he wanted for the main event, and I give him exactly what he wanted. I worked that kid's wheels off all the way around. I did,
Absolutely.
and oh man, and look, and the kid was athletic. He had the athleticism. He had everything he needed except a desire to want to do it. And it showed all the way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it did. I think I saw him one more time that whole year, because he just, so, hey, whatever it is, if it's just, if you don't want to follow in your daddy's footsteps, I am not against that. My son hates, I almost say he hates wrestling, but he is not going to follow in my footsteps whatsoever. And I have no problem with a kid not following in your footsteps if they don't want to,
Yeah, I had a different problem. My son wanted to follow in my footsteps, but he wanted to do it for me, not for him.
Right.
Right. And so, and the way I knew that was when he come to me wanting me to finish training him, I'm like, son, I've been training you since you were born. I've been teaching you since you were born, man. And so, but here's the deal: if he wanted it, he would have found it. We went out and we found it, and that isn't what he wanted. He wanted to do it with me, but my time was ending. I was getting out of the business, and so he's a police now, and I'm as proud of him as I can be. He's up in Dutch Harbor, Alaska, working as a police officer and doing his own adventure. And I could not be happier that he found his own adventure and that he's off on it and doing it now.
Well, now what you got to realize though, Dan, is he wasn't just some Rudy Poo wanting to be second generation.
Right.
His son might have been a little awkward making sure it was done right, but he was a natural at it.
Oh yeah, no
I
doubt.
worked with him a little, and he could have went.
Yeah,
Oh,
he could.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, look at your genes. They're,
And his son ain't much smaller than he is. He's got the size.
Right.
Yeah.
Not as much weight, but height.
Yeah.
He's a tall, big kid.
Oh, he's solid. He's what I would look like if I was skinny.
Right.
Well, let's get into something here because I know I met Dan the first time down in PWA, which was down in Pensacola, Florida. And he was part of a tag team. Wasn't his name Tyrone?
Yeah, he was. He went by the Achy Breaky Kid. His name is Tyrone Holly. That's his real name. I think he is kin to Bob Holly. It's like a cousin or something. I don't know how close they was, but yeah, love that guy to death. We was a tag team in several promotions that we went to because the stuff that he did in the ring complemented the stuff that I did in the ring, and vice versa. And we had great chemistry. No matter where we went.
Oh, y'all were money. Y'all
Yes.
were absolutely money, man.
Yeah.
I used to love to watch the antics that y'all would come up with, the different ways that y'all would figure out how to entertain an audience, and and then the wrestling itself. Both of you were very well accomplished wrestlers, and so you were a pleasure to watch, man. I loved it.
You were
Well,
a pleasure.
I appreciate it. Tyrone, I remember watching Tyrone when I was in high school. That's how long he was in the business before I was. So, and then he was Tyrone the Terrible The one of the first times I ever saw Tyrone. Now here I was, I think I was like 17, 16, just looking to get trained or whatever. Didn't know how to go about it. It was all still. This was 90, I think. So kayfabe was still a
It's
big
still
deal.
alive. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very much alive. And anyway, Tyrone came out, and me and a buddy of mine that was there at the wrestling venue with us. Oh, we was hooping and hollered because it was all in the wrestling, back then. And Tyrone I just was dogging him and dogging him, dogging. All of a sudden, he just turned around and took a piece of his chest hair, plucked it off, and kind of thumped it to us. And I was like, I really can't believe it. Oh, it just set me on fire that somebody would do that. Just that little bit of whatever he did, and I was hooked. Like really, I was already hooked, but I was so deeply hooked by what that little gesture that Tyrone did, and later on I got to tag with that guy. It's crazy.
Oh, that's awesome.
When we say you guys had a great gimmick, I walked into the building and watched your gimmick. It was you got to be careful these days with the way society is, but you guys pretended to be a gay couple. You took what Goldust did with the androgyny and added the relationship to it of you two. You guys were the couple, the tag team. But you never insulted.
Well, see, that's the thing. A lot of people, especially in the Florida area, and it's always bothered me a little bit, but I kind of shrugged it off. I've never tried to bill myself as a gay person because I didn't want to offend the gay people. They could have a way better spokesperson than me. I guarantee you that. I've always, called myself flamboyant. I never actually used the word androgynous, and y'all guys, from the South, y'all, remember Mid-South wrestling.
Oh yeah.
The way I got this idea, I was training, and the last day of my training, the promoter came to me and he said, you're going to be in the ring tomorrow. Think of a gimmick. And I started thinking, I was like, who's the guy that I hated the most? Old school, Mid-South, is Exotic Adrian Street.
Yes.
Nobody ever came out and said anything about, oh, he's homosexual or he's gay or blah, 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 blah. They didn't have to. He spoke. What he did, his actions spoke louder than any words that anybody could say,
Yeah.
And that's what I modeled my gimmick after, the promotion in Alabama. What was it? Al, if y'all ever heard of Awesome Al Savage.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
he was the booker, and I wish I could remember. It was Automobile. My memory is not as good as it used to be. Sorry.
That makes all of us.
Yeah.
I might have had something to do with that. Sorry.
Yeah, probably so. But he was trained by Adrian Street, and he saw me work. I actually went to the gym to put over somebody else, and for them to try out. And I had no qualms of I didn't even care. I was just there to put this other person over. And he came to me. He's like, hey, you want to work? I was like, sure, whatever. Yeah, I'm good for it. But he knew what I was going for. He knew the Adrian gimmick. He was trained by Adrian, and he's like, you don't have to say anything. You do your little ha hoo-hoos in the beginning, then you get ferocious. And as a bad guy, as a heel, that's exactly what I did. I do my little hoo-hoos and hee-hees and butt shakings for the first 7-10 minutes of the match, and the last 2 or 3 minutes, because of my character, I was pure evil. But as a face, especially with Tyrone, you had to work it different. You had to ha ha until you really got serious at the end. It was ha ha ha, get your tail whooped the whole time, then come back and beat them. That was pretty much the whole formula of it. Me as a
You left a piece out from that. You left
which
a part.
one?
The
Probably
one
which
where you would absolutely make everybody break character
Scott
I
Armstrong.
at the
tried.
beginning of the match.
I tried. Yeah, that was.
See, that right there was on my list of things to talk about because I have never seen a locker room, an audience. I have never seen Scott Armstrong completely lose it in a match. He had his head down and you saw his gut. He was trying to catch his breath. He was laughing so hard.
I remember that match.
If I remember correctly, he couldn't even wrestle in that match.
No,
he
Yeah.
ended up walking off. My favorite.
That was my main goal, is to break everybody. It really was. If I could make you laugh, because I knew I was gonna, and I'm not tooting. By gosh, I am not tooting my own horn, but I knew I was going to entertain the audience. My goal was to entertain the guy that I was in there with.
All I remember was the match was kind of halfway serious. He got away from you. You went to go behind him and do your stuff. And then he was looking like he didn't know what to do because, it was the gimmick. And then you did one of these. You went, licked your hand and put your hand out to him. And that was when he completely lost it.
I messed with Scott Armstrong so bad when we was in the PWA. Well, I really did. It's a shame of the crap that I pulled on that poor guy.
You killed him.
Oh yeah, I did. In the back, I gave him fits all the time. I really did. Bless his heart.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but during that match, everybody in the back was on the floor.
Oh,
we were watching the video and everybody was dying.
Nice.
It wasn't you. It wasn't you that they were laughing at.
No, it was the Scott's reaction.
You broke Scott.
He broke him in half that night. That was look, my favorite ever was in Chipley when it was myself and Ghostface tagging against you and John Boy. And I want to say Elliot was a manager that had kind of been thrown in there. And we get ready to start the match. Of course, Dan's trying to break me, and I'm trying to get a hold of his nipple. So we're going back and forth. And finally, I turn around before I break. I turn around, and I tell Ghostface he's starting the match. But Dan had better plans. He did. He grabs Ghostface and runs him face first between the top and second rope and gets him waist deep onto this rope, and then he straddles him and he hooks those ropes, and he's got him, dude. And he is riding him for everything he's worth, and Ghostface is screaming bloody murder. His hands are reached out towards the audience. His feet are inside the ring. The only thing touching is his stomach across that second rope. And he's screaming so loud, I'm dying. I'm over there choking to death. I jump off the ring and stick my head under the apron, and I'm laughing so hard. And about that time, John Boy pops in on the opposite side from me, screaming at me, "Do you hear that shit?" And he's laughing. And then the referee comes in on the side. And he's laughing. And he kept that boy screaming for almost a solid 5 minutes, dude. It was horrible.
You know,
he broke He broke everybody. He broke the whole damn building that night.
You know your big move where you used to toss them in the corner and then do the spin around on top of them?
I do. I remember that.
Do you remember how that came about?
I want to say y'all had something to do with that.
I was working with you in the ring and you went to throw me in, and I said, why don't you try this?
Yeah,
And you used that move for 10 years.
I did until I couldn't physically do it anymore. I sure did. It was great. It was like top of my arsenal. You know, who does that? You know, it wasn't doing nothing at all. Everybody knew it wasn't doing it. It was just humiliating is all it was.
That's all it was. But
Yeah.
the reason I brought that up is because down in PWA, there was 3 or 4 people who would get in the ring with us and train, which was me, Tony, Death Row, and Chris Ace.
Yeah.
And Bondage, Nick Bondage.
And Nick Bondage. You were one of them.
Yeah.
You know, and then who was the big guy? Monty and
Calvin.
they
Monty,
got to
Warbucks, and
the
Calvin
ring
Rose.
finally with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I introduced them to Bobby, and they started out with a Hell Club.
Right, Hellfire Club.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Hellfire Club. Yeah.
So yeah, they're running a promotion in Mississippi, and it's doing very well, from my
Good.
understanding.
Oh, that's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
You talking about money?
Monty
Big
Warbucks and Calvin Rose both they are running Southern Wrestling Alliance, I think it is. It's SWA.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
Sounds like another road trip, Bo.
Yep. And I
Oh.
actually, if you go back onto the videos on the Facebook, I got an actual video of you and Tyrone in there working y'all's gimmick
nice.
down in PWA. I don't have a lot from PWA because they were hard to get from.
Yeah, there was.
But
When I-
we're gonna move on to a funny story, and I know Death Row's gonna remember this, and it's gonna put a smile on your face. Do you remember the interview? When I brought up your guys'
Several.
interview, why people would think you guys were that way.
Oh yeah, there were several of those interviews.
And I am talking the interview where they had the camera outside your doors, and all you hear from the room screaming is, "It won't fit. It's too
Yeah.
big. It won't
do.
fit. It's too push harder."
Yeah, I do remember
That was
and I
about a-
remember looking out while we was doing that interview, right? Looking at the camera, and there was a crowd of people behind the camera just holding their mouths, trying not to ruin the moment.
Yeah.
And then when you finally get to see what's going on, it's you trying to put Tyrone's boot on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to put that boot on. That
You-
was hilarious.
You had some fun. You not only broke everybody in the building, I think anybody that watched you on camera, you broke them.
I tried.
You
You
came
know
out,
who-
you came out throwing teddy bears, giving people lap dances.
I did. I did give people lap dances. Only the guys, though. I didn't want to be anybody. I didn't want to make anybody uncomfortable.
Yeah. They won't break up no marriages, right?
That's
Uh,
right. That's right. That's right.
Look, let me tell you, we're talking about all these antics that you did over the years, but what I'm going to interject here and say, Bogey just touched on it. We were working out in the ring before show just about every time. People think that we're rehearsing, but we didn't rehearse. We were perfecting a craft. But with all the antics and the comedy that you did, you were a dead set hell of a wrestler. You could wrestle the wheels off of people, and I think people need to know that there was the gimmick side to you, which was the comedy and the good time. But when it come time to go, you could go with the best of them. You could wrestle with top tier talent any day of the week. And I used to love to get in there in our pre-show workouts just to see if I could outrun you. You know, it was like, let me see if I can do something to make him go, wow, today, you know. And
Well, you did a couple of times, and I took some things from you that we would get in there, and there was something I can't exactly remember how it went, but you had backdropped me over the rope. You'd turn around, and somehow I'd get you in a headlock, jump over the rope, and take you into a headlock takedown. Me and you worked on that, and I
yeah,
incorporated that into a couple of the matches that I did. I was like, that's cool as crap.
yeah, well, that's something from mine and Bogey's past. What people didn't know is Bogey and myself were trained luchadors with Lucha Libre.
Okay.
And, yeah, and so our maestro was from Honduras. And we would go, and look, I'm going to tell you now, the Lucha Libre warm up, just their damn warm up, would have most every wrestler I know toes up on the side of the ring sucking wind.
Oh yeah, oh,
Their
definitely.
warm up was brutal, dude. But we hung in there with them, and we got to learn Lucha Libre. And so for people our size to be doing lucha would always pop the audience, man,
Oh yeah,
because
heck yeah,
it's never seen that from anybody.
yeah.
You know,
And you was one of my favorite guys to work because you was bigger than I was. And I know a lot. I'm not a small guy.
not at all.
Yeah, I'm 6'2". Back then, I was knocking on 200 pounds, which don't sound, when you compare me to, some of the big name talent, they're all, 300 and 280 and blah, 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 and all this.
I was 6'6", weighed in about 315 pounds when we were
Right.
wrestling each other. Yeah.
And I didn't get to wrestle a bunch of big guys at all. And
Yeah.
I hated being the big guy. I really did. I wanted to be I wanted to be the little guy that get thrown around and did all the flips and the flops and all that. And I never got to, but with you and well, who's that other big guy?
Cornbread.
Yes, cornbread, you, and that was basically it when it come to the really hulking big guys.
Oh yeah, Cornbread was a lot bigger than me.
Yeah, yeah,
That was a big old dude, man.
yeah, he was. And this was back when he was, I think, playing minor league football. So he was in shape, like
Yeah.
good shape.
Yeah.
He might have been in shape, but the night of that cage match, he wasn't.
No.
He was still in shape, man. It's just a different shape.
Yeah, just a different shape. Yeah. There's lots of shapes out there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but yeah, man, getting to work with you, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was an easy night, just go out there and have fun and see who could get who. And people don't know about catch can. And look, you talk to these guys that are wrestling today and start telling them you want to do some catch can, and they're going to look at you with a mystified look and go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But that was us, man. We didn't have to go out and plan every move we were going to do in a match. We could go out there and go and do what we needed to do, and have a lot of fun doing it.
Tell me who's going to win, and I take care of the rest.
That's it, man. That is it.
Yeah.
Oh man, the old days, buddy. The good old days.
Well, see, I always knew who the crew was down there because when we went out to eat, it was me, Tony, Chris, Death Row. Then we had we had Nick Bondage, and that was the crew that always hung out together down there.
Right.
Yep. I remember Scott Armstrong interjecting himself into our crew there for a little while. He wanted to be part of it. We were the cool kids. And then And then I remember Robert Gibson showing up, and he interjected himself into our crew. And
Yeah.
it's like, we were the ones. Everybody, I mean, we were having a lot of fun. And, I think about the old days like that down in Pensacola and everything a lot, and what we did there. And, that was in my time of being there, that was when I really started to perfect my craft. My character really came to life while I was there, mainly because of Cornbread and my dislike for him. And I hate to say it that way, but I really did have a dislike for Cornbread, and
He's a sweetheart.
and it showed. I mean, hell, even when they made us tag with each other as tag team partners, do you know I never tagged him in? I'd always slap him in the face to tag him in
I
every time.
remember that. I
I
remember
would
that.
turn around and fire him up, and then get behind the referee and tell the referee, "Man, I tagged him,
Yeah.
get him in there," and he hated it. He absolutely hated it, man. But I just I didn't. I never could connect with him, like I could with other people. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. Please don't. If Cornbread watches this, don't take this the wrong way, Cornbread. It's that was then. This is now. I got all love and respect for you now. That was back when I was building a career, and I just didn't have a lot of love for you back then, brother. You know, and we're telling the truth here. This is the real side of wrestling. And but I love Pensacola. I loved our time there. I love what we accomplished down there.
Well, you're talking about Cornbread, and I think what it is with Cornbread, he was a good guy. He was never my favorite. I had a lot of other people in front of him down there. But the thing that he was lacking was killer. He was not a killer. He was the teddy bear that hoped everybody would act afraid of him.
And then I showed up.
And then you showed up and showed them what the killer should be.
Well, that's what got.
I don't think he got it.
Scott Armstrong called me by myself and told me to be who I was. You go out there and do what you do, and and everything will be great. And that's what I did. And there were a lot of people that feared me after coming out there doing what I do. And that's potentially what created our clique, was the people that knew that I was working, the ones that knew that I wasn't out there shooting on him, that I was actually working. They weren't scared of me. And so we had a lot of good times together down there. And it's crazy about how many of those guys thought that the only way I could handle Cornbread like that is if I was shooting on him. But I wasn't. I ain't going to say I didn't. I did shoot on him once. I did. He deserved it. He asked for it, and I give it to him. But it was just in the cage match. That's the only time I ever shot on him, was in that cage match. And I had to. That was a big deal, man. That was a big match, and he was about to blow it. I had to do something. It was.
Been in that position before, yeah. So I totally understand.
Yeah. While we're talking about Pensacola, we can't talk. We've dropped a lot of names, but one name we've left out is Cyrus.
Love him.
Yeah.
He came to my wedding.
God. Did he really?
He sure in a church. He sure did.
In
my wife,
church. And the church is still standing.
My wife, to this day, if I bring his name up, because I was in the middle of the ceremony, and my dad is was a Southern Baptist preacher. So he married me and my wife. But to this day, if I see him or say, hey, look what Casey's, did on Facebook, it's Casey on Facebook, blah, 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 blah. She'll like, oh, is that Cyrus? Cyrus is here. Cyrus is here. That's the exact same thing I said during our wedding ceremony when he walked in the door. I was so excited. I love him. He had a lot to do with when I broke in. he was there. He was he helped bring me in. Him and a guy, and y'all might know him, remember him, Mercury McLeod.
Mercury.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
both
yeah.
of those guys, my very first year in the business, kind of took me under their wing. I'd go to their house, spend the night or whatever when I was down there in training and stuff. And Cyrus, I'd take 1,000,000 bullets for him any day of the week. Love him to death.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you, man. Cyrus has always been good to me and good for me. We've had a lot of good times, and it's even with Cornbread. We were just talking about him with Cyrus. The first time I had to wrestle Cornbread, Cyrus catches me by myself, and he looks at me and says, "You're going to have to shoot on him." Now, I didn't know who Cornbread was. All I know was this: I'm pitching to go wrestle this big man, and he telling me I'm going to shoot on him, and I said, "Why? Is he that bad?" And he said, "No, he's that lazy." He said, "You're going to have to shoot on him to get anything out of him." And I was like, "Holy cow!" And I did not know the truth of that until I worked him, and then the truth come out.
Cornbread was always a good guy. He was.
Yeah.
He never was a bad guy.
Never was a bad guy.
No, never. And I think that hurt him more than anything, is always putting the biggest guy you have as one of the faces.
I 100% agree. 100%. You've got to run both sides of that line. You've got to in your career. And I did my stunts as a baby face over my career. And, doing both sides of that line will round you out. You know exactly what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, how it needs to happen. So anybody out there that is deadlocked on a gimmick that is set either heel or face and can't get out of that rut, switch it up, man. Your audience will get sick of seeing you doing the same thing over and over and over again. You have to switch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much, speaking of switching, how much did you run heel?
Everywhere that I wrestled except for Florida, which was Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. Florida, I couldn't do it. The fans wouldn't let me do it. I don't know what it is about the Pensacola area. And I went to Crestview, to Panama City, Pensacola, Milton, Florida, all those little towns, all those big cities and stuff. I was always a face in Florida. Louisiana hates me, utterly hates me. Alabama, at the very last of the organization's life, where Al Savage was the booker, I was the face, and I was the champion. That was maybe 6 months. The rest of the 4 year, I was a heel. Every time I do that gimmick, the Dan Delicious gimmick, I'm a heel, all except for Florida.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about Florida, but
I wish we could have
absolutely love
got
it.
you up into the Prattville area and everything like that, because that gimmick would have been over whether you were heel or face.
Yeah,
That gimmick would have been the Prattville area and the Wetumpka area. Yeah, you had your fan favorites, you had your heels. But if you were loved, they didn't care what you were. They would boo you all night, and then after the show, they'd be like, "That was a great show. We'll see you next week."
oh yeah,
Yeah, man. He never got to wrestle in front of Spider. Oh my God.
Spider would have killed him.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, that's almost like a rite of passage.
She would have killed you with kindness
you'll be with kindness.
Yeah, killed you with
And a
yeah.
and a
Yeah,
baseball
yeah.
bat and a knitting needle.
baseball, 32-ounce glass Coca-Cola bottle, dog chain, hot coffee, or dry snuff. She would have killed you with kindness, brother.
All right. Have you ever heard of a tag team called the Georgia Boys?
No.
They were back in the early 90s. They're not together anymore, and their partners are under another name other places. But it was a tag team of Randy and Dwayne, and these guys were the ultimate. They walked out the locker room and you hated them. You wanted them to just get their asses handed to them.
Yep.
Dwayne got up in front of Spider, talking, and she spit snuff into his mouth. He got maced by her.
Yep.
Oh
Yes.
my God.
But hold on now. Hold on. Death Row will tell you the story where Spider's over there cooking dinner for him.
Oh, yeah, this is no lie, man. Of Spider, you know my gimmick. I was not a cowardly heel. I was a brash in your face heel.
Right.
And so Spider would hit you with just about anything she'd get her hands on. But one of her favorites to hit me with was her sister's walking stick. And I would walk up there and get in her face, start screaming at her, and she'd hit me right across my left collarbone repeatedly with that walking stick. And I would stand there and scream at her till it started hurting, and then I'd turn and walk off. But she upped her game. She figured out when I started doing main events, she would go to the concession stand and get a fresh cup of hot coffee. And I'd come out and start, and she'd dash me in the face with this hot coffee, right? And then one night, she took a big mouthful of dry snuff, and I walked up and started screaming at her, and she blew at my eyes. And I'm on my way to the ring to wrestle. I had tobacco juice running out of my eyes the whole damn match. and so this is what kind of relationship we got. And you know, when I left Pensacola, I became a single daddy raising 4 children, right? And so I come home one night, got all 4 of my kids in the car, and there are people in my house. And I locked the kids in the car, and I go busting in my door, and it was Spider and her 2 sisters. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? I said, you don't like me. And she looked, oh, son, I love you. And then I said, well, how the hell did you get in my house? And she said, your sister let me in. And so you got 3 unassuming little old ladies come up asking to, my sister let them right in. And, but they were in there cooking me dinner, right? And then the next Saturday night, we go do a show over here in Wetumpka, and she's blowing snuff in my eyes again. That woman was something else, man. It was. I'm serious. It was like a rite of passage to wrestle in front of this woman. She, super fans. She was more than that. She was like the teen mama or something. I mean, it's like.
If she liked you and you were her favorite, whether you were a heel or a baby, and she liked you, either at the end of the night or the beginning of the night, she'd hand you this thing covered with aluminum foil. She made the best pecan pies.
Best pecan pies in the world. No, that would be her sister, Granny Bill, that would try to get you the other way. Now, Granny Bill would try to sneak off with you.
Oh wow!
It was an amazing relationship, and you had that relationship with your fans down there in Florida.
Yeah.
Do you had that type? They hated seeing you in the ring doing the stuff, but they all wanted to hang out with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to tell a little story before you get there. I used to hang out with Dan doing some stuff. We used to go to a concert or two, maybe. We went to a concert and we wrestled. It was a club in Pensacola where we wrestled, but they had a concert at another club of a Kiss tribute band.
I remember that.
So one of the girls that was the waitress at the club had went over to that club. So we already knew somebody there. Now we're out watching the band, and I got a hotel like right across the street from the club. So we're out watching the band, having a good old time. And this girl comes out, and she had told us earlier, she says, well, watch my costume later. And we're thinking, oh no, what's it going to be? She comes out, she's dressed as a genie. She has like 3 pieces of see-through veil. She's coming over to me and Dan. She does not know that he is a straight heterosexual male.
A lot of people didn't.
She's handing us drinks. He's keeping up with his gimmick. We're just there to watch a band, because we were both good guys. We're friends. She's handing us drinks. She's got all the other waitress handing us drinks. We're not paying for nothing. She's trying to get us to do it so everybody sees them and buys them from her. Next thing you know, she's over there whispering in everybody's ears that he's kind of doesn't like girls a lot. So she has all the girls coming over all over him, kissing him, wanting to take him places and change his ideas. And I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, wow, this is so nice because I'm getting the excess.
Yeah, it was a great gimmick.
Yeah.
It was a really good gimmick.
You played it well though, because you never cracked.
No,
I think that would have ruined you in Pensacola if they would have found out the truth.
Probably. In fact, Bobby Dahl, when he found out I got married, he is exactly what he did. He went, okay, I thought you was really a homosexual. It's good to hear. I was like, no, what the heck? No, man, I've never said any. Because back in the back, I acted just like I did in the ring in the back. Once I was in character all night long. I couldn't jump in. That's not something you can jump in and out of,
Oh, tell me about it. Oh my God.
Do you happen to remember that? Now, down at Pensacola, Death Row already mentioned, Robert Gibson came in and all that. We had Bullet in there, Scott in there, Steve was in there, I think once or twice. He wasn't there a lot.
Right.
Road Dogg came in to sit in the back and hang out and party.
Yep.
We had Percy Pringle, which they don't know him. That's Paul Bearer from the Undertaker days. He was the manager.
Oh, yeah.
I had a camera about a week or 2 before the show, and I was taking pictures of everybody, and Dan says, take a picture of this. So I took a picture.
Yeah.
The next time I got the camera, I got everything developed. Well, that tells you how old this shit is.
Right.
I got it developed, and I went down there and said, here you go, Dan. Here's that picture you had me take last time. I was handing him the picture. He was reaching to grab it to see what it was. And you saw this lightning hand go, let me see that. Percy grabbed it. He looked at the picture. He says, it'd look bigger if you shaved.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that. I sure do.
Do you still have that picture?
You still have that picture?
No, do you?
No, I don't.
Because I gave that was the only picture I had. Or let me tell you, if I had that picture, it would be in this thing. I would put it as my background.
Oh.